this is it. We're looking into, staring towards the middle of March already. And this is Head for the Hills. It's an FYI podcast for Story Studio Network. And we need to point out that this has been kind of a fun thing to do because we're doing so with the support of eWool. And Glenn, I know you and I have talked about this over the last number of weeks. And you begin to see the kind of winter that we did have, particularly here in Ontario. And if you were out and about, the eWool vest would have been awesome. But I was also talking to a guy who's a cameraman, and he works on the outdoor game. There's going to be an outdoor heritage game this weekend in Hamilton, the Leafs and the Sabres. And he said one of his buddies was working the game in Minnesota when it was minus 30 Fahrenheit. So I suggested to them that the camera crews doing those outdoor games might benefit from the eWool vest.
Oh, there's no question. I'll tell you what, Dave, I've skied at minus 20, minus 30, and you really need it. And people say, well, it's okay, my hands are all right, but they're not. The end of your fingers, your toes, and everything, and especially the heated vest that they have, it just keeps your core warm, and then it just seems to keep the rest of your body warm as well. It's spectacular. Right now, you don't need it as much, but I certainly wear my vest all the time, no matter what. I'll just wear just a vest underneath my jacket. It's absolutely perfect.
And if you want more information, check out their website at ewool.com. All right, my friend, this has gone by in a hurry. And I know this is a sort of a limited series because we started talking about doing the podcast back in January. It'll take us into next week, sort of March break. So there's a few things that we might want to talk about there. But, maybe it's because of the Olympics, but I guess there's been a lot of focus on the national team, our Olympians. We had the opportunity to speak to Nancy Green last week, Brian Stemmel a little earlier. So this week we're happy to welcome in Britt Janyk. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. And, you spent, what was it? Was it 9 years on the national team?
I spent 12 years in the national team. Yes. It was a little while. Well,
and I was going to say, when we were talking to Nancy Green last week, it's about that, sort of the prime of your life as an elite athlete. And I always say, people talk about all the hard training and everything that you do, but, I know well enough that you just managed to pick the right parents so that you were able to do what you do.
Exactly.
You were genetically gifted to be able to win on the World Cup circuit.
There you go. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it certainly was fortunate to be raised near the mountains and to have a family that was passionate about skiing already. And I did a ton of sports when I was a kid, and just loved playing the game, and loved seeing how I could get better. And then skiing became such a passion. I loved being outside, and I loved being in the mountains. And I just naturally started to drop off other sports and stick with skiing as I got into my teenage years.
So what sporting federation would have liked you to made the turn towards them instead of skiing? Because my guess is elite athletes are elite athletes pretty much no matter what game you pick up.
Yeah, possibly. I played tennis pretty competitively, and I did gymnastics, but looking back, I was definitely not going to progress in gymnastics too far, but it gave me the skills through my years in skiing, the crashes you can end up happening in that risk there. And so I think that base of athletic ability across many sports definitely helped me on my skis, just with being able to recover from crashes. And I was fortunate to come away from my, a lengthy ski career without too many injuries. And that's no easy feat.
Yeah, well, we were talking to Brian Stemmel a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the fateful crash that he had. He came back from it, but he quite frankly and unvarnished suggested that every time he was in the gate, he was this perpetual fear that drove him down the side of a mountain. And I don't think we mere humans kind of appreciate the bullet speed that you're going at. What's going through your brain? I mean, did you share the same? Was it fear that sort of drove you, or was there something that put that out of your mind?
Yeah, I often tell people that fearlessness is not part of the game. I definitely had fear about whether it be a whole course in particular or certain sections of a course. And there wasn't about 2001 before the Salt Lake Olympics. I had a pretty good crash in downhill. And downhill and Super G was always two events I did well at, but I became better at giant slalom and slalom over those next years. And I actually pulled away from speed. And I'm pretty sure it was that crash and just the fear of, I was like, I just don't want to do this right now. I'm just going to leave that aside. And so I focused more on the technical disciplines. And in the end, at around 2006, 2007, I would go back and do more downhill and Super G. And that's where I got my best World Cup results. So it's really interesting how it transitioned. I just needed that time to almost mentally recover and find the strength to push out of the gate again with confidence, and not really overcoming those fears, but knowing how to manage them and feel confident even in spite of the fears that you have. So yeah, downhill in the start gate certainly isn't fearless. You get really good at managing the fears and knowing what your strengths are and drawing on those.
Wow. Britt, can you take that into other parts of your life? It's something you learned from the hills, and if I can say that crash, is that something that you pole vaulted forward in your life for any business or your personal life?
Well, I think absolutely that fear of what making a decision, and just knowing that on the other side of that decision can be something amazing and excellent. So it's definitely helped me a lot, because once you're in the start gate and they start counting down, you have no choice but to you'd better be ready. You have prepared yourself, and you have to make that decision that I'm going out of the start gate, and I have done the training, I have prepared well, and I am ready to go. And so it's that moment. And I think because I've done it over and over, and as have other athletes, the same thing, that it's such it's a process that is just ingrained in you. So yeah, I think beyond my sporting career, and it's been 11 years since I stopped racing, and even day-to-day parenting decisions and decisions with what I want to do with in work and whatnot. It definitely, I bring it with me every single day.
Britt, I want people to know you're coming to us from Whistler, and I was just in Whistler last week. We'll talk about that in a second. But for people that don't know, you won a World Cup downhill in 2007 in Aspen. You were third at 2007 in Lake Louise. And also, I guess we could say, and I know there was a great quote that I read that you mentioned at the 2011 Olympics, 2010, I'm sorry, from Vancouver, that the thing that you remember most about that run you had, again, the Olympics in Vancouver, Whistler, was at the finish line. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was it's a really special moment. For one, to be an athlete and to be able to race in your hometown on your home hill was, most athletes do not get that opportunity. So it was not lost on me. And I felt that once I got here and got home and got off the same familiar lifts and got to ski down the same familiar runs, it actually eased the pressure that I felt. And the downhill was an incredible moment. It was the first event that I raced, and I made the finish, and I finished 6th overall. And my goal was to challenge the medals, because I knew that I could win a medal, and I was right in the mix, and I challenged it, and I had a great race. But the roar of the crowd and the energy of the crowd in the finish area it took my breath away. I did not expect that feeling. A couple days later in the Super G race, I would make a mistake about 20 seconds into the course. I recovered and stayed on my feet. And what willed me to stay on my feet, I remember making the decision mid-air with my ski tips up in front of me. The decision was so instant. It's like, I am not missing that finish area again. And I managed to finish the course. And it was because I wanted to cross the line and feel the crowd at the finish area again. I wasn't going to miss out on that. So it was a really special moment, and it's the people that were there made it that extra bit special.
Well, that's incredible. I've heard of home field advantage, home rink advantage, but I've never heard of home hill advantage. But you certainly brought that into perspective. That's a great story. I remember that quote. I just returned from Whistler, Britt, and I'm not kidding. I hadn't been there for about 7 years. I want to thank Destination BC, Steve Ogden, of course, Tanya Sears from Whistler herself, for an amazing 5-6 days. I am blown away how spectacular that mountain is. You've skied all over the world. Would you agree that's probably one of the best ski resorts, period, in the world?
I would certainly agree. It was always a fun place to come back to. And obviously I've chosen to still make this my home and to raise my children here. And for me, it's the ski community. It's that feeling of this is home. And I still walk, I ski on the hill and I see people that, instructors that taught with my mom or somebody that worked, I see so many friends and familiar faces, but I love cruising down the runs and finding new little places. And yeah, I still get excited to ski up on the hill here, every day.
Brett, what I was really taken back was how busy it was. Obviously, when you take a look at the Après Whistler Après, I've been to a few around the world. I've never seen Après anywhere what Whistler can deliver up. You can go from Longhorns, the Garibaldi, you can do the Irish Pub, you can do Black's Pub. They're all basically sitting at the bottom of the hill. And what was really cool was the fact that it wasn't just a bunch of young kids. It was like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds. Everybody up enjoying themselves and soaking in probably the end of COVID, as well as celebrating a fantastic ski season.
Yeah, it's quite the scene. It's pretty exciting actually to see it back this year, that after COVID celebrations, and you do feel a different energy. For me as a local, having seen it go really quiet, and part of the beauty of this town and being in a resort town is the people that come to visit it and the new conversations you get to have and the new people you get to meet. And it's really wonderful to see everyone here. But yeah, it's busy, and it sometimes as a local, I just want to go ski my mountain and not wait in the lineup. But there's that appreciation of the reason why these people, everyone's come here because this is such an amazing place to come and just take it in and experience it.
This is obviously a family activity, but are they on track to be elite players or elite skiers?
Well, they're talking about wanting to race. They're both, so I have a 10-year-old daughter and we have a 7-year-old daughter. And from day one, I've skied with them, and I still take them skiing, which is what my mom did. My parents did that with us. We didn't do ski school or a racing. I didn't do a racing program until I was 10 or 11. So my oldest wants to start racing, and she'll start next year. And that it's going to be interesting. But number one is that they love being in the mountains, and they love the sport and love to ski. And that's really what I've been focusing on. And it's wonderful to see them take on a sport and something that I love to do so much, and to see them start to appreciate it and make friends and get excited about meeting their friends up on the ski hill to do a day skiing. And those are, for me, those are the important things. That's what gets you connected to the community and the sport itself.
Brett, just one thing about the lines you see at Whistler. I found that taking the chair up, I take 3 chairs. I found I love the chairs because you get to feel the hill. You get to feel the sights and the sounds, and there's very little lineup. So just for people that are going to Whistler, and I'm sure it's going to be busy through May, and it has the longest ski season for most resorts in North America. You'll be skiing into May. The fact is that I take up the chairs, and again, I took 1 chair up to the next chair, and you can take 4 chairs all the way to the top. I usually stop around Roundhouse at 3, but nevertheless, it's just a little tip for people that want to ski Whistler coming up, because it's a great spot. Don't be concerned about the long lineups that you hear about. They are there, but that's one way you can get up the hill at Whistler. Of course, Blackcomb offers the same. And talk about pressure here. Not only is mom a World Cup champion, but also dad is the head coach for the men's downhill, or actually men's national team. So your children have some pretty big boots to fill, so to speak. And maybe just tell us a little bit about your husband and his role, what he's doing with the national team.
Yeah, so he was started with the Canadian ski team in March of actually right when the pandemic was kind of unfolding. And, it was an exciting move. He had worked, when we met, he was coaching the British team, and then actually coached the Spanish alpine ski team for a couple of years when our oldest was little. And that was fun because I took her to Europe and we traveled a bit. And it was when, kid number 2 came, we went, okay, maybe we should pick a spot. Where should we settle? and a position opened up to run the Whistler Mountain Ski Club. So that's where he was. And I think what was so special about that is that the girls and I, we got to be back in those grassroots programs, and the girls were around. I coached the U12 program for a couple of years, and that was fun. And the girls were little, and they had the bigger kids just scooping them up and helping out. And so they got into that community. And now, my husband's made that jump to the national team, and he's back on the World Cup circuit and at the big events. And so he spends a lot of time away, and we spent, myself and our two girls, we spent a lot of time watching the World Cups and knowing, okay, that's where Papa is. There he is. And I try to make sure that the girls really have that connection of knowing what he's doing and where he is, because that's what makes it easy, I think, for me to have him away so much, because I know what the job is. I know what he's doing, and the importance of it and the value in it. And yeah, I know they're both excited to ski and to race. If racing is where they want to go, I think it could be amazing, because I have gotten so much from my skiing career and my racing career. And I certainly would hope that maybe that's a path they take, but it certainly is, it's up to them and not up to me. But exposing them to the spirit and the passion of the ski community, and for that, just for the sporting community across any sport. So, 2 days, the men's team picked up a bronze medal with Jack Crawford at the Olympic Games, and both my husband and I were in Beijing, and 2 days later, the medal was home here in Whistler on the ski hill, and I get a picture sent of my girls and their friends holding the medal. I was like, okay, that's just so special. Yeah.
So would you risk coaching your kids, or would you leave that to others?
Oh, I might leave that to others, because I've learned already from a young age, trying to help them get onto skis. They listen to other people more than they listen to me. So,
welcome being a parent.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So it's a challenge, but to give guidance, and just, I think what I can share is the passion I have for the sport and for skiing, and the friends that the people that I know in the sporting arena and in the ski community that can help guide them along the way. Yeah.
Well, Britt, you were part of a team that was called the Speed Queens, and I know that came from Marzi, a very good friend of ours from TSN, and also from Powder Magazine. So he wanted to say hello as well. And just in summary here, the fact is that Cameron Alexander wins a downhill that last week in Norway. He's a Canadian, of course. Broderick Thompson, also a third of Beaver Creek. So your husband's doing an amazing job, of course. Mark Tilston, he's doing an amazing job with the national team. And just how do you balance? I know you mentioned you like to be able to see your husband and things, and your kids get the connection. But your husband's gone an awful long time, and you often talk about how people balance their families back home. Is it difficult to do that because your husband has to be on the road so many months of the year?
Yeah, he's away a lot, and it has its moments. It's not always that easy, and I must say it's wonderful to see them getting results, and to see that group, the group, the staff. I mean, the athletes get the results, but the staff, and I saw it in Lake Louise. I took the girls and I went out to Lake Louise. I saw it over the summer, a similar energy and cohesiveness to what myself and Kelly Vanderbeek and Emily Bryden and Larissa Yerkew was in that pack, like the cohesiveness we had, and that belief that, okay, she did it last weekend, well, why can't I do it this week? That all of a sudden everyone starts to pull on each other, and even the conversation that you have at the hotel is different, because your teammate was just on the podium and you're talking about podium finishes now because you can. And so, yeah, certainly it makes it a little bit easier to have them away on the road, knowing, just watching the incredible results that they're getting. So, and then having been in the game myself and knowing what it takes, and knowing what they're, I know exactly what they're up to, and it makes it a bit more manageable, but we are certainly looking forward to him coming home in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I bet you are. Just quickly, I just want to mention it because I wanted to mention Tanya Sears. She does such a fantastic job with the media. Creekside is kind of I'm not going to say the forgotten part of Whistler Blackcomb, but I understand there's a little bit of things going to happen this summer for Blackcomb, not Blackcomb, but for Creekside to improve.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So Creekside is really the catching spot from everyone coming up from Vancouver on a day-to-day basis. And so it's just been getting busier and busier. For myself, I've always grown up in Creekside, and that's where my parents built our family home. And so they're going to upgrade. It's got a 6-person gondola right now, and then you get off of that and you load onto a 4-person quad chair. Whereas from the village and moving up, there's just more capacity to upload people. So yeah, they're going to switch that out to a brand new gondola, an 8-person gondola up from the village, up from Creekside, which is going to move you onto Big Red, which is going to change into a 6-person chair. And that's just going to help move people on those busy days. And it's one thing, it's okay to stand in a lineup as long as you know that it's moving.
Yeah.
And that's going to make a big difference. It's just going to make the experience better. And honestly, when I'm up there with my girls, sometimes we wait in lines, but usually there's always a lift that has a quiet line, and we just go ski there. And so there really are, because the mountain is so vast, there's always an option, and always great skiing to be found, even on those busy days.
Great.
Britt Janyk, thanks for joining us. It was great for you to share your stories and your insights with us. We appreciate your being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's fantastic. It's always fun to talk about the stories and to share.
Well, that was fun. I love kind of getting behind the curtain with people like Britt Janyk. There is a certain personality there in the whole thing. And as you pointed out, when, you can hear her smile right through the telephone. She's passionate, excited about what she's doing. Again, when you begin to imagine the pressures on an elite athlete while they are at the top of their game, that's one thing. But when you talk about the family pressures, her husband's the head of the the national team. That's commitment and passion for the sport.
For sure, Dave. And what brings this whole discussion home with Nancy Green and Brand Stemmel, and also we have Jonathan Reid coming up from Horseshoe Valley coming up, and he's also an international competitor as well, and success in it, is the fact that these are individual sports. There's not a team sport. Like, it's you and the hill. In golf, it's you and the golf course. Like, there's a very few sports that really challenge the person. When you're on a team, you can maybe rely on somebody else if you're not having a good day. But on the ski hill and going 140 kilometers an hour, you better make sure you know what you're doing, because if you don't, you're into the trees, as many of what we've seen before. But there's not many sports that really beg to have the individual confidence and the passion that the skiers have, and of course people that are individual sports. And I was just blown away by listening to the fact, and Brian mentioned he's scared. If you're not scared at the top of the hill, you're not in the game. That really brought home to me, because you wouldn't think that as a professional athlete. Again, that was really quite something that what he said. And then of course Nancy said the same thing, and of course Britt just said it as well. Yeah, it's I love the way that it might have been Brian who qualified the reason that we're so engaged in winter sports is because when we watch them, somebody it could kill you. And I don't say that facetiously. I think, yeah, you're right. So there's a certain element of danger that goes with this that we certainly take for granted. So it was great to have her perspective on this. This is Head for the Hills. He's Glenn Crouter. I'm Dave Trafford, and we need to mention that we do so with the support of the folks at eWool. Turn the heat on and keep the fun going. You want to check out their website, ewool.com. And, you're just thinking ahead to next season. That's something that you might want to engage in if we're looking at another winter like we had this year. All right, we're happy to welcome in Jonathan Reid. He is the Vice President of Ski Operations, Freed Hotel and Resorts. JR joining us. Are you at Horseshoe? Where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm just sitting at the bottom of the hill here, starting to take in the early stages of a beautiful March break.
Yeah, well, it's funny. We were talking a little earlier just about how things were. People were exhaling in British Columbia because COVID seems to be dying down. Rear view mirror. We're lifting restrictions. I imagine that you would have been anticipating March break anyway. But to be able to see this transition in our social life and our ability to, just gather, never mind for you to do business, there has to be a good deal of relief looking forward to this March break week.
Yeah, it's obviously exciting to see some of the changes coming and the improvements, and it's just creating a better, more of a level of comfort with our guests and with our teams. So. We've seen a lot of people come into the ski industry over the pandemic, which has been nice, but the indoor and F&B areas have definitely had their struggles. So we should see some changes there.
JR, what really takes me back is I almost grew up, I pretty well did grow up at Horseshoe Valley back in the day. And Horseshoe Valley lost its luster probably about maybe 10 years ago. You came on board, and my friend, you have turned around the resort back to, and I know it's getting there, back to where Horseshoe was the number one jewel in the skiing crown of Ontario. So congratulations on that. You've got new ski equipment, or new snowmaking equipment, new staff, a new look, everything. But what I was really taken back by was I get all your emails, and I get all emails from a lot of ski resorts across the country. But I was really taken back when I saw your lineup for coming up for March break. And this is a lesson not only for just people that want to be part of it, but also for other ski resorts across the country. Can you tell us just a little bit about how this was all put together? Like, we're talking Cirque du Soleil, Fire. Like, I could go on and on here for amazing, amazing March break you've got set up for next week.
Yeah, it really is. I received the same email, Glenn, and it's awesome to see. We have such an awesome team at Horseshoe, and they've done a really good job at really building these activities up and these activations for guests. So, there's a lot more than just skiing. There's something, we offer something for the whole family across the board for activities from our refrigerated ice rink to tubing and cross-country skiing and fat biking, snowshoeing. And then you added this layer on top of, just being able to relax and have these busker type entertainment and activations going on around the resort. So it really just keeps that weekend alive and gives that whole family a great experience.
Just give people an idea here. March 14th, you have the Fire Guy. March 15th, you got the Circus Jonathan. On the you've got the slopeside tent for Cirque du Soleil. You've got the hockey circus show on the 16th. Circus drummer on the 17th. My goodness, it's like an exhibition you've got continuing on at Horseshoe Valley. And this goes all into your philosophy, as you've just mentioned, the fact that it's not just a ski resort. And for people that don't know, Horseshoe Valley is just basically 1 hour north of Toronto. Easy to get to, easy to find. So, Jonathan, this, I guess, falls into the whole perspective of your philosophy and giving people more than just, because not everybody in the family is a skier, giving more than just a skier an experience.
Yeah, and that's what it's really all about. Everybody can get away for the weekend. You can come up, take part in an activity. You can stay. We're seeing with the pandemic, a lot of people have moved up here into some of our new condo developments, which we have a lot more of that coming with our new ownership group with Reid Hotels and Resorts, and just growing that entire experience. And as you mentioned, we have spent a lot of money on infrastructure over the last 5 years. So it's really just it's growing, and then growing the summer months into the biking and the golf and everything else. So there really isn't a downtime for us anymore, and the reservations that we're seeing on the books for March break are stronger than I've seen them in the last 10 years here. So.
Well, that's good news and important news, because my concern as we have made the turn here in terms of lifting restrictions is one thing, and we can put it all on paper and have the logical conversation about it as much as we want. But I still get a sense from some people in my circle, they're a little hesitant. They want to wait to see. So it's good to hear that your reservation numbers are that strong, considering there may be some hesitancy out there.
Yeah, and it's people feel comfortable in the sense that they'll be outside. So I think what we're seeing are people are still not necessarily rushing to jump into an airport and fly somewhere. So, as I said, a lot of people that were spending their time in places like hockey arenas and going to movies and these indoor type activities have discovered skiing or rediscovered skiing, and they're loving it and sticking with it.
Is there something that you set up vis-a-vis to deal with the COVID restrictions or some of the limitations around COVID that was new to the program that you discovered and looked at and said, you know what, we got to keep doing this, in COVID or not?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there were several things that we did for within the operation, and how do we sort of move the guests through the property without bringing them indoors. So ticketing kiosks were a huge one, where you're buying online, you walk up, you scan your phone, and it spits out a ticket. So no interaction between individuals, no going indoors. So we've kept that in place. Our rental ski rental center, we doubled the size of it with we literally took all of the hard goods, the skis and the snowboards, and put them in these roll-up door shipping containers. So the only reason you go inside is to put your boots on and get your helmet. So it really reduced that capacity footprint by at least 50%. And then we've kept that transaction of the hard goods outside at that sort of roll-up garage door type atmosphere. So outdoor patio bars, a soup shack, a poutine trailer, the outdoor food and beverage experience around a fire pit is continued on. And so people are staying outdoors, and yes, we're keeping some of these operational functions that work really well.
Yeah, well, a heartier experience thanks to COVID. That's a real positive.
Yeah, it's nice to see, and it's great to see all the people that have come back to skiing or done it for the first time, and that are sticking with the sport.
Have you really noticed a lot of newbies, we could call them, this past couple of years because of COVID, JR?
A lot of people that you hear about, oh, well, the kids haven't been able to play hockey this year, so we all went out and got new skis, and we're here at the ski hill, and one of the kids is going back to hockey, and then the other one is loving the skiing or snowboarding and sticking with that. So there's all different stories, but yeah, definitely, Glenn, we're seeing new people coming to the sport, which is amazing for the entire industry.
And just on the business side, you've got a fantastic inn right there with an indoor pool and all sorts of great amenities. But also, I just came from Whistler, and they have over 800 hotels. What I was really impressed about at Horseshoe Valley, there's so many other opportunities to rent condominiums and things like that. Can you give us a little bit of an idea? The amount of interest that people are not just wanting to stay at the inn, but they want to take the whole family to a condo, so to speak?
Yeah, so we have a 101 room hotel, which is the main hotel of the resort, and then we have two different condo buildings, the Copeland House and Slopeside Condos, which are essentially we developed and have sold to different investors or part-time users, and then they come back into our rental management program where they can earn some money when they're not using the unit. So. And we're really excited. We're about to launch, I believe, another 200 units at Horseshoe in the condo side, and also moving forward into some townhomes and whatnot. So COVID is really what's happened is we've seen a lot of people that were in the rental management program, and now they've moved into their condo, or they're using it a lot more because they're skiing or they're able to work remotely. So we've seen a real growth and a boom in the real estate market up here. And stuff that we've sort of been sitting on and waiting to develop is ready to go. And with our new ownership under Freed Developments and Freed Hotels and Resorts, we're going to see a lot of that sort of expedited in the next few years here.
Hey, JR, just wanted to mention the fact that how long your season's going to end, and do you have the snowmobile competition back again?
Yeah, we have the CSRA National Snowcross Championships on the first weekend of April. And we're closed for skiing 1 weekend after the March break, so I believe that's around the 27th. So another 2 weeks, great conditions, lots of snow. Temperatures are starting to rise, so I think we're in for some great spring skiing, and timingly just right to get to pull out the spring gear and go from there.
Well, Jonathan Reid, thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a grand time this during the March break, and we'll want to probably catch up with you later just to see how things are going in terms of that increased number of reservations, in terms of, seeing what the appetite is to get back out and be social again in that kind of setting.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks very much for the time, and we'd love to chat again as we roll into bike and golf season up here.
Well, I do think the whole idea of March break this year is going to be so important because, as we post this podcast, it's 2 years to the day that the pandemic was declared. And,
wow.
You talk about a blur, but 2 years ago, Monday, we would have been shutting everything down. To be able to say that they had such a robust and terrific program and offering during the March break at Horseshoe, wow! I'm just able to say that's a great relief on so many levels to be able to talk and see that happen.
It's for all of us, Dave. It's been a crazy 2 years, and skiing kind of took a little bit of a hit in the nose last season because they closed down for a month or two, probably a month and a half. But this year, the government allowed the resorts to continue. The numbers have been astronomical. The interest has been phenomenal. Not to mention the challenges of shipping, but ski resorts are basically sold out for season passes. Ski shops, no question, they're sold out of goods and things like that. So it's been an absolute unbelievable year. Just for people that want to know, in Ontario, we kind of shut down. We run out of skiers before we run out of snow. And as JR mentioned, he's going to go up to about the 25th or something, just before the last week after March break. You'll find that kind of consistent for most resorts. I'll come on next week and I'll find out a bunch of resorts, what they're going to be open. Like certainly destination resorts such as Blue Mountain, they'll be open as long as they can because they've got people staying in the hotels and there's not a whole bunch else to do. So heck, let's open the hills and let them ski. So that'll be one of your spots that you'll probably ski into April, maybe even close to Easter. Not May, but April. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. So I'll come back next week, and certainly across Canada, you'll be skiing well into May in British Columbia. And we'll have a lady on, Sabrina Robson, next week from Destination BC to talk about your options to ski and continue to ski and all the fun that you can have coming up in spring skiing.
And where will you be this weekend?
This weekend, we're going to just be local. We're going to probably go up to Mount St. Louis Moonstone and take a little boot over to Horseshoe Valley. They are so close, again, 1 hour from Toronto. So I'll be keeping it local. After Sun Peaks in British Columbia, the interior, and Whistler, I'm a little poop. I got to tell you, it was a lot of traveling, a lot of whirlwind. I went snowmobiling, ice fishing, sent me through a forest in the Lumina. It was one spectacular couple of weeks, and I have to thank everybody. So this will be a little quieter weekend coming up for sure.
Yeah, no jet lag going to Horseshoe.
Nothing on the 400 that I know of.
That's it. All right. He's Glenn Crouter. I'm Dave Trafford. This is Head for the Hills. It's an FYI podcast produced through Story Studio Network. Enjoy your weekend as you head for the hills.